Right before we jump into this video that's talking all about gear, how do you keep track of all of the cameras you have as well as protect them? Well, if you don't have My Gear Vault just yet, you can download it for free at mygearvault.com for iOS and Android. Jared Polin, FroKnowsPhoto.com, and Canon has gone all in on RF Glass. They just announced a roadmap for 6, that's right, I have 6 fingers up for 6 new lenses that are supposed to be out in the second half of 2019. So now let's go down the list of lenses and I'm going to tell you what I think as well as what I think they will cost, starting with the 24 to 240 f4 to 6.3 IS RF lens. Now this is a 10-time optical zoom lens. We'll call this the worst RF lens ever made. Now the reason I say that is because this is probably designed for the EOS R or the EOS RP. Now if you haven't checked out the preview, the hands-on preview that we did with the RP, that is linked down below. It's a great video, there's some great photos, and you can check it out because it's a pretty good video. But I think that this lens is more designed as the entry-level lens for the lower end full frame R cameras. Now I think this is going to come in around $899. It can't be too expensive, but it also won't be too cheap because it is an RF lens. Now let's get into the good glass. See, Nikon did the opposite of what Canon's done. Now Nikon has announced their roadmap, but it's a deep roadmap and they've only put out what I like to call not the greatest lenses in the world, whereas Canon has already put out a 28 to 70 f2, a 50-1.2. They've put out great RF glass right off the bat, and now by the end of 2019, if they hit their targets, they're gonna have basically a pro line of lenses for when they have the pro mirrorless cameras coming out. The first major lens here is an 85 f1.2 L. The 85 1.2 L is one of the best portrait lenses out there. It's big, it's hulky, it's slow. The older one for EF. I think the autofocus of this lens is going to be much faster than the other one. It's going to be extremely sharp and it's going to kick ass, and I'm guessing the price is going to be $2,300 when it comes out. Now this was a surprise. And another 85 1.2 that they're calling a DS. Defocus smoothing. Now, I'm not sure that Canon has ever had a lens that gives you this option, but I know that Nikon had a 135 DC, which it helps with giving you a different look of bokeh. Now, I'm not sure how I like this myself. I know some people out there will like it. I'm gonna need to see it in action to determine whether or not it's actually interesting or not. Now, because it has an interesting feature, I'm saying it's gonna cost $2,450. So a little more than the regular 85 1.2, but I would think that's to be expected for a different technology because they're probably not going to make as many of those lenses or sell as many of those. Now you will notice that we have footage of these lenses, but the lenses that we saw down in New Orleans are literally just mock-ups. They don't have apertures in them, some of them. They don't really mount. We weren't allowed to touch them, but they are true to the size that they're going to be. I couldn't hold on to it to feel weight because they were worried what would happen. Would I smudge it, spike it, or chip some of the paint? I don't know, but at least we get to see what they're going to look like. Now we have the Hebrew Trinity of 2.8 glass for Canon, starting with the RF 15 to 35 2.8 L IS. That's right, you've got IS in this 2.8 L lens. Now a 15 to 35 is a pretty popular range. We know this because of all of the people that love the 16 to 35, the 2.8 that they've had for EF for a long time. There's a couple of different generations of that one. That is a great photojournalistic lens. I personally like to be able to shoot wider. I love the 11 to 24 f4 that Canon offers. I purchased it even though I don't personally own a Canon camera. Steven does. He likes borrowing that to use it because it's a great lens, and I love using it when we go on these Canon press trips. Now, with that being said, a lot of people love the 15 to 35 range. Will they come out with a wider 11 to 24 f4 or maybe a 14 to 24 2.8? Or some of the developers that were down there with us from Japan asked us, would we like a 10-24 f4 or an 11-24 2.8? Honestly, that's a toss-up, but I think I would like a 10-24 f4 because it goes a little wider. Let me know what you think down below. If you had to choose between those two lenses, which would you go with? Now, I think that's going to come in around $1,800, so $200 more than what the EF is going for, but it is a 15, so maybe it's going to be a little more expensive. We'll have to see. Let me jump in here real quick and say, because of you, we're almost at 1 million subscribers, and to thank you for that, I'm doing a mega giveaway where I'm giving away a free camera. To sign up for free right now to win that camera, head on over to bit.ly/megafro. Now let's jump back into the video. Now this is an interesting lens, a 24-70 2.8 L IS. So here is your image stabilized 24-70 2.8 L lens that you've been waiting for. You haven't had that in a 2.8 before. And let me take a step back real quick, because Canon told us on this trip that we were on that future cameras that they make will get IBIS, in-body stabilization. For a long time they said, no, we believe in just image stabilization in lenses. Well, now they've officially said that you will start to see IBIS in future bodies. So now you'll have dual IS in the lens as well as in the body. So the 24-70 I think is going to come in around $2,200 because it just seems to make sense. Anywhere between $2,200 and $2,400 for that one. And this was a major surprise. A 70-200 2.8 L IS. Now it wasn't a surprise because they announced this lens. It's a surprise because of how small it is and how compact it is. Look at it next to a 70-300. I accidentally almost grabbed the 70-300 thinking it was the new 70-200 because they look so similar. It is really small. Now you will notice that they reversed the zoom and focus ring like everybody else. But the difference is that the Tamron, the Sigma, the Nikon, the Sony 70-200s are much larger than this. I was not expecting to see such a small lens be a 70-200, and Canon's L glass is some of the sharpest glass that I've personally ever used. Now look at it next to the 70-200 2.8 version 3. Yeah, it's much smaller, which begs the question, do you even need that tripod collar? Because if it's so much smaller, can't you just hand hold it? But I guess because there's a tripod collar, it's probably a pretty heavy lens. Personally, I'll take that tripod collar off if I'm shooting stills, and if I'm shooting video on a tripod, well then of course, we'll put that tripod collar back on. Now I'm hoping because this lens is so much smaller and that the zoom ring is now on the outside, that it's not as bad as what Nikon did with their 70-200, because I hate where that zoom ring is. I was shocked by this 70-200 and the size, especially when we saw the rumors, and then seeing the mock-up, it was really mind-blowing. The price of this lens, I'm gonna call it around $2,500, if not $2,600. I think it's gonna be an expensive piece of glass. You will also notice that this is the first white RF lens that we're seeing. Even the control ring, which is closer to the body and not out at the end like the other ones, is also white. You're definitely going to see 300 2.8s and 400 2.8s and who knows what we're going to see from them, but this is a fantastic lineup, and they also announced a price drop, a rebate for two of their RF lenses. The 24-105 and the 50-1.2 are both going to see a rebate of $200. So they're starting to drop the price on those, and they announced 6 new lenses. This is insane. Canon is all in on glass, which means they spent their time getting the glass right, which means hopefully they're gonna get the pro bodies right and out next. Whereas Nikon went the other way. They got out their 2 bodies and they're gonna be trickling out their glass till 2021 and beyond then. What do you guys think about these lenses? What do you think they're gonna be priced at? Leave some comments down below. Don't forget to like, share, and comment, and all of that good stuff. And thank you very much for watching. Jared Polin, FroKnowsPhoto.com. See ya.